2, 1, 2. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. This is test. Audio test. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Audio test. Audio test. 1, 2, 1, 2. Audio test. Audio test. 1, 2, 1, 2. Audio test. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. This is a audio test. Yep. Yeah, yeah, so make sure that you can upload it and can be even it's great.
Um, is that okay? I might take my coat off if it's warm.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah, yeah.
potentially
Yeah.
with the lights we get
Yeah, yeah.
and
Is that okay?
after 15 minutes you probably will be yeah.
Cold? Okay.
It's alright.
Okay.
Don't worry about switching
And it's
on and off.
it's off right now.
Muted, it's locked at the moment. I will control the mic, so don't worry about it switching on and off.
I just turned it off.
I know,
It's on? Oh, it's still okay. Okay.
So don't worry
Okay. But if I start saying something strange, the audience won't hear it.
Yeah, the only moment will be live with you on stage.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yeah, but yeah.
Just in case. Okay, thanks.
So for you, oh yeah, so it'll be there. If you won't be moving too much, sometimes
Oh yeah.
this little
Thing, well, I can always slip it off too.
can you?
Yeah.
Or probably put it underneath.
Or put it under, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
I gave my PowerPoint to
But in Keynote or was it on
PowerPoint. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm hoping afterwards it's, I don't know, that it's not too drawn out and detailed, and
I think we're going to go to Weta, which I hope will be
Right.
relaxing.
that's what I'm hoping is that they're not going to be really like, oh, demonstration and here and do this. And I mean, a demonstration, all that's great, but not one of those like in excruciating detail or we end up having to do another presentation. So we'll just have to watch. I don't know, we'll play it by ear.
You must have incredible stamina.
It was better years ago. Not what it used to be.
But I need food. I mean, like, I need lunch. Otherwise, my energy goes, you know?
You have to graze, because even though you can normally do hours and hours of research
Yeah.
and everything, when it's this, it just...
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Okay, so,
So
as
hard
you
to
know,
get
my
before the
name's
Astronaut.
Alan. I'm from Science in the Van. We've met most of you. It's good to see you
Although I have
back
a slide
again.
that
When we
goes
do
like
our
the evolution
stuff,
of
I have a
exploration on
policy,
Mars,
and it's
and
I
it ends up
finish
with
with as many as I started, and it's looking good. Guys, don't be shy. Come on in, take a seat. I'm not an astronaut.
yeah.
You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about interrupting me. I'm
That's
just
great.
me, and it's all good. There we go. So, guys, if you're having a good time at Te Papa, I want you to go, yeehaw!
Are you kidding? This is the most beautiful museum.
Excellent,
Oh my God.
fantastic. Now,
yeah,
the reason you're here today, other than Te Papa is a really
husband
cool
has that-
place, is it is the Space and Science Festival happening now. Google that, tweet about it, go and have a look. It's all awesome, okay? And there's lots of great things going on. But you're here today for this event here. And before we start, I'm just going to do something a little bit fun to kind of pull you all together. How do, sir? Do I look good in this light? Excellent, awesome. There we go. Thank you very much. There we go. So, guys, don't worry. Just keep coming in. It's just me talking. Don't worry. Come and take a seat. We got heaps of room. We can shuffle these guys forward if you want, and we can sit on the floor. It's all good. We might get joined by general public. And they might come in and say hi as well. Hey, fill the middle up. That's it. I like your style. Awesome. There we go. Cool. Now, I'm going to start with a little something. Just because I can, to be honest. And I've got it over here. Da da da. Hey. Yeah. Oh, hang on. Okay, so now this here is what I like to call the swirlotron. In a few moments, it's going to start to spin. As it spins, you need to look into the center of it. As you look into the center, you can blink, but keep your eyes fixed in the middle. Don't start looking around and thinking, how do we get out of here, and stuff like that, okay? So you can blink. As it spins, you will get like a tunnel effect. That is perfectly normal. You might see white spots of light. They're just spirits trying to contact you. That's a joke. There we go. Now, guys, all you need to do is watch your center as it spins. Just keep your eyes on the middle and just keep looking at the middle. As it spins, you might get a tunnel effect. That's perfectly normal. If you feel you're going to be sick, just look away. But keep looking at the front for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Now look at my head. There we go. So, that's all good. So, okay, guys. So guys, like I say, my name is Alan. I plan to say very little because who wants to listen to me when we've got people from NASA, astronauts in the room, and all of that. I just want to make it clear that if you do hear the alarms go off, like we've already said, just use common sense and get out of here. Heaps of beautiful Tapapa staff to take us out of here. So I'm going to follow them. So follow me, basically. There we go. We're going to have 2 speakers and then questions, and then 2 other speakers and questions then at the end as well. So our first speaker is a scientist for NASA. After reading a lengthy, detailed description of her work, I looked up from my computer and looked at my wife and said, this chick makes laser beams for robots on Mars. That's cool. So, I'm 5 years old, and our next speaker is Dr. Jean Blank. Huge round of applause, please.
Should I stand here? Doesn't matter. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Jen, and I'm really happy to be here in Wellington. It's a real pleasure for me. I love the rain. I come from California, where we don't have enough rain, and I work on Mars, where we don't have any rain that we can tell. Anyway, I'm an astrobiology discipline scientist, and what does that mean? It can mean a lot of many things. It can mean that I study the stars and where carbon comes from, or the origin of solar systems in our galaxy, or the origin of life and how we got the building blocks of life to Earth and to other planets. But today I'm going to talk to you about my work with the Mars Science Laboratory team and working with the Curiosity rover. So those are my details. I guess, next slide. So, here is the Curiosity rover. Many of you may have seen pictures of it. Raise your hand if you've seen a picture. Yes? Okay. It's the most popular rover on Mars right now, and I actually have an app on my phone that tells me, it's a free app, you guys can all use it too, tells me where the rover is on Mars and what day it is. On Mars, the Martian day is called a SOL, S-O-L, and so Curiosity rover today has been on Mars for 1,643 sols. And that day, one Martian day, one sol is about 40 minutes longer than Earth day. So, in fact, we've been there with this rover team, the rover's been there for about almost 5 years. It will be 5 years in August. And we're exploring something called the Cagle crater, which is a big impact crater on the red planet. So, just a little review. Here's Earth and here's Mars. An Earth year is about 1/2 of one Martian year. So we are in our third Martian year, but really we're in our 5th Earth year. The gravity there is a lot less, so we would weigh less, the rover would weigh less, And the sunlight, even though we have lots of sunny days on Mars, the sunlight is only 44% that of Earth. So when we look on the landscape of Mars, it always seems to be a bit dim. It's due to two things. It's due to the fact that we're further from the sun, so we don't get as much sunlight, and it's due to the fact that there's a lot of fine-grained red dust in Mars. Here's another Earth, or as a terrestrial map of Mars, showing where the different rovers that we've sent there have landed. This is where the Curiosity rover is. It's in a big impact crater. But we've sent landings to Mars going back to the 1970s when we sent the Viking 1 and Viking 2 landers, 1 and 2. And most recently, we sent something called exploration rovers, the Mars exploration rovers, which were Spirit and the Opportunity rover. And this one, even though it arrived in 2003, before many of you were born, it's still going. This is a little solar-powered rover, and it's still going. So that's pretty amazing. And the mission duration was intended to be 3 months. So anyway, back to Curiosity rover. Here's a close-up from that map showing what the crater looks like. And you can see, here's the crater right here, and that black dot is about where the rover landed. So this crater is about 155 kilometers across. And in this, when there was a big impactor that hit the crater, it hit the Earth so hard that it made the Earth kind of deform elastically and then rebound. And so in the center of that crater, there's a big mountain. The mountain's about 5 kilometers high, so higher than Mount Cook. And if you try that, I mean, you can try that in mud puddles or in dirt. You can make the same miniature impact craters with little mountains and play with little, your cars or imitation rovers or rovers you build and do the same kinds of things. So on Mars, it's kind of cool because the top part of Mars, the northern hemisphere, is very clean. By that, I mean there aren't very many impact craters. Whereas the bottom part of Mars, you can see here with all the yellow region, it's just pocked of lots of craters. So we think that the lower hemispheres, or the southern hemisphere of Mars, actually is a lot older. And sometime at the very end of this impact history, there was a very, very large impact crater that hit Mars and melted the surface of much of Mars. And so we went to look at this kind of the border between the area of old Mars and the area of younger Mars. Once again, I'm zooming in, so here's another picture of that crater. You can see the mountain in the center, and you can see where the rover, Curiosity rover, landed right in here. This is the first time that the NASA engineers have tried to land a rover with such detail. We actually had a landing ellipse that wasn't very far, very big. It was like from here to Porirua. So what is that in distance-wise? Well, it doesn't seem like, to try to aim something from Earth to another planet and have it touch down with that kind of small distance and that kind of accuracy. It's the first time we'd done that. In fact, the earlier rovers landed with big protective bouncing balls and just bounced around until they came to a stop, and then the balls deflated and out came the rover. In this case, we used kind of crazy technology, which was involved a sky crane. So as the capsule is coming to Mars, then it popped open and started firing retrojets to slow down, and then actually 4 cranes, metal cranes, had the rover descend to the surface. It was really scary. I was in the same room with the engineers who were monitoring this, but I was in the basement. They put all the scientists in the basement, but we could still feel the energy. The whole building was vibrating with energy because we didn't know if it was going to land or if it was going to go splat. And fortunately, we had to wait because there was a delay. And at some point, everything became automatic, right? The rover's coming in to Mars, everything's computerized, and we have to wait almost 15 minutes for the radio signal from the rover to come back to Earth. It's so far away. So we're waiting to see if it has succeeded or not. And does anyone know what happened? Did we succeed? Yes, we did. Fortunately, I still have work to do. Anyway, so it succeeded, and it was pretty exciting. And I think there's going to be another rover that's going to go to Mars 3 years from now, and we're going to use that same technology. So here's a cartoon of the rover, and I included just to show you, I want to make one point. The rover has lots of instruments. So the rover is a base, it's like a base carriage, like a little car, and then the different scientists cluster together in teams, and the teams focus their expertise on one type of instrument to do one kind of measurement or one type of measurement on Mars. As you heard, I worked on the ChemCam team, And this is the team that built the first interplanetary laser. This is a laser that works at the low temperatures of Mars, and it can fire up to 7 meters away from the rover. So if I wanted to, I could hit you with the rover. Choo, choo, and see what you're made of. So what we're doing, this is the CamCam is, I think, the coolest instrument because it's the sort of scout camera. We can also take a picture from the mast and see in great detail what we're interrogating. So the rover can be rolling along, firing, choo choo, choo choo, and I can tell, what the material is we're looking over. Since we've landed on Mars, this rover has fired that laser over 400,000 times. So I can't even really get my head around how many times that laser is fired, but what that means is it's also generated a ton of data. So I trained as an astrobiology scientist, a geologist. I like looking at rocks. I like looking at water and rock interaction and how that interaction can provide food for microbes. That's kind of my area. And all of a sudden, of study, and all of a sudden I'm on Mars looking at big, massive reams of data. So the cool thing is that I'm always interested in learning new things. And I had to sort of, just like any of you, if you decide to go into a different science field, you'd have to start at the beginning and learn and learn and learn and get better with practice. So over the past many years, I've been working with big data analysis and learning how to extract information about the surface of Mars from this first interplanetary laser. This rover also has some other really cool instruments that we've never sent to Mars before. In particular, it looks at the radiation on the surface of Mars. In other words, to monitor any kinds of solar storms and radiation from the sun that might really be hazardous to people when we go there. So we want to know what kind of radiation and what kind of shielding we need from that radiation. And this is the first rover to really monitor that over time. It also has a big arm that weighs more than you guys do. Well, at least on Earth. It weighs about 90 kilograms. Probably more than your parents do, too, I hope. But anyway, this arm is like a big anchor. And on the arm, there's a drill, there's a brush, there are different hand lens imagers to look at things up close, and there's another X-ray particle instrument to also interrogate the sample by resting on the sample. So here's just a lineup of the different rovers. And I put me, there's this kind of dorky picture of me. I was supposed to be looking at the rocks, but I couldn't help posing in front of the rover. This was taken at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, where they have an exact replica of that rover. So we do practices at JPL to see, how the rover responds to moving over a different kind of material. Now on Earth, since we know that the gravity is much higher on Earth, so things weigh a lot more. So those wheels are actually made out of plastic. And so when you listen to them moving, in the Earth model, it sounds like it's moving over broken glass. But on Mars, everything weighs less. We've still had problems with those wheels, but it's pretty wild to me to think that they're made out of plastic and they're carrying this giant rover that's the size of a car on Mars. So for comparison, here's our Curiosity rover, and here are those exploration rovers I mentioned, the solar-powered ones. You can see the little solar sails here, or solar panels. And then this is the one, Sojourner, that went in 1999, one of the very first rover to go to Mars. It looks like something you might play with in your backyard with batteries, right? But that's the first one we sent to Mars. So when we landed on Mars, and we were so excited we actually landed, the first thing we did was not look at the ground. The first thing we did was reboot new software because it took us almost 10 months to get to Mars, and the engineers and software developers actually had improved the software for operating the rover by remote control over that time. So the scientists were like, come on, come on, come on. And no, we had to wait while the system did a reboot. It took over 3 days. So we were really impatient to get going. And then we had to do an instrument check to make sure all of the 12 instruments worked well, make sure all the cameras, there are, 17 cameras on this rover. The rover takes lots of pictures of itself. I'll show you some pictures in a few minutes. But anyway, as soon as we started, one thing that happened that was cool is when the rover was landing, it actually sent puffs of air and exhaust to the surface as it was landing, and we uncovered this cool thing called conglomerate. Has anyone seen conglomerate near a riverbank? Raise your hand if you've seen a conglomerate. What is a conglomerate? It's a bunch of rounded pebbles kind of stuck together with kind of fine background imagine like a candy bar with nuts, where the nuts are the big cobbles, and then the candy bar is sort of the cement. We found conglomerate, and on Earth, conglomerate only forms in riverbanks or along channels. So right away, we're finding evidence that there was water activity on Mars. And if you look at Mars from space, you see lots of features, channels, alluvial like fans, delta fans, deposits that look, or features that look from Earth like they might be made by water. But of course, we haven't found any water on the surface of Mars. So it's pretty exciting to go there with the rover and see this feature of conglomerate for the first time. We also, I mentioned that we were sort of excited to get going, but we had to wait for the new software and for the instrument check. And then the scientists got so excited about just the ground we were looking at that we only went a little distance. We went less than a kilometer and stayed there for 7 months. We got so excited talking about the details of what we were roving over that we just sat there for 7 months. And some people were like, come on, let's race up the mountain. We got 5 kilometers, let's go. But for the scientists, it was so cool. I mean, the challenge about working on another planet, among many things, is the fact that as the scientists, we want to go there and touch things, but we have to do that with a rover. So our rovers are field scientists, and we have to direct the rover from Earth and then wait patiently while the rover operates on Mars. And I work with a big team, and we make plans for a few days at a time now, and then the scientists make plans for what to do. We send those plans to the engineers, and then the rover driver actually pushes the button to send that instruction up to Mars. So it's kind of a slow process, and you have to be a little patient, but when the results come back, it's pretty exciting. So this is a place called Yellowknife Bay, and it's probably the most famous place we've been in this crater so far because we spent all that time there, I mentioned, but it's here where we're able to sit on the rocks, drill into the rocks, go down under the surface, and find that those rocks actually bring some of that material onto the rover where we had really cool instruments on board to tell us what the mineralogy was. I mentioned I work on the ChemCam instrument, that laser. That gives us chemistry, but it doesn't tell us the mineralogy. And we were able to go to the site, bring some material on board to the rover, and then we could tell what the minerals were. And those minerals, they were so cool. They're just like minerals we see in our backyard. They're minerals that on Earth would form underwater. So now for the first time we have evidence that these minerals probably formed on Mars underwater. And that water we can model to see what the chemistry, that's the kind of stuff I do. What was the chemistry of the water that would have been forming with those minerals? Well, heck, it would have been water we drink, just like the water we get from our tap. Slightly alkaline, flavorful, ready to support life. So this, our mission really to Mars wasn't to find life with this mission. The mission was to see whether Mars was habitable in the past, today, or in the future. And we found with this one spot, through looking at the mineral composition, that those minerals were evidence that water once sat in liquid form on Mars. So that was pretty exciting for us. Here's a picture of the first hole we drilled. See, it's pretty small. It's about the size of a New Zealand 20-cent piece. And there's a picture of the drill bit, and down here is a picture of the scoop we used to bring material on board. Here's a model of what that area looked like once upon a time on Mars. A nice, shallow lake that we could have floated on in our air mattresses. I'm not sure we'd been able to breathe, but it would have been very nice and mild and able to support life as we know it. So, wow, we didn't find life on Mars, but we found all the conditions that would support life on Mars as we know it. That is, probably bacterial life. And as astrobiologists and earth scientists, we like to make lots of models of what happened there. So that's just sort of a model. We think the impact crater formed, and then there was a lot of water all over Mars, brought debris, brought sediments to the crater, filled this giant crater up, and then there was water, and then there was erosion. So one thing that we scientists on the team spent many hours talking about and arguing about is how the details of this formation process. So here is a picture of our route. So you can see with this little star, that's where we landed, and we went a really short distance over to Yellowknife Bay, and then we took a vote as a team. Okay, we've spent a lot of time, like almost half of our first part of the mission, staying in one place. What do you want to do? Do you want to stay here? And everyone voted, or do you want to book for the mountain? We all voted to run for the mountain. So we've been running ever since, with some shorter stops. So this distance from this landing point is called Bradbury Landing, all the way down here, skirting the edge of the mountain, trying to find the best way up. We're actually up in here now. That we've only gone about 16.3 kilometers. So in almost 5 years, 16.3 kilometers, how fast is that? So if someone asks me how fast does the rover go, the rover goes like this, and then it sits for a few days. So we're not moving very fast, but there's a lot to see on Mars, and we're pretty excited. Here's another view from space. You can see we look at details from space, and we have 3 orbiters who are helping us map Mars and send information from the rover, relaying it back to Earth. And we can also plot our days. Those numbers there are actually just different Martian days or Martian sols. Now I'm just going to show you a couple pictures of the landscape because, well, in New Zealand it's kind of hard because you have so much nice vegetation. On Mars it looks like a desert. No vegetation that we've seen. But this is very familiar to me coming from California where we have a lot of desert as well as a lot of green. So I'm going to show you a couple sort of landscape pictures. We have sand dunes. You can see the rover tracks. Those are the mountains, and the mountains we're heading to in the distance. Here's a place where we stopped, and we have that brushing tool on the rover. So you can see that the stuff underneath the surface is not red. It's kind of a gray material. And we find a red dust over the surface of everything. But with that brush and also with the laser, we can remove that surface material and get to the deeper, more oxidized material that's more interesting to us. Here's another view just to show you the kind of detail. I mean, most of you could take this kind of detail with your cameras, or if you have cell phones, it's the same kind of resolution. So it's so cool to be having that kind of resolution on another planet. It's kind of hard to imagine. Here's another example of mudstone beneath sandstone. So we're interested in finding contacts or boundaries between different types of rocks because that tells us about the different histories and the water histories on the planet. Here's another, I can see places on this in California where I might go climb under the ledge to get away from the sun, or actually just to go play in the sand. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to think this is on Mars. Does this look familiar to any of you? Have you seen places where you played outside and seen this kind of setting? It's kind of cool. Just no water. And here finally, here's a place with mud cracks. So we see an example of a place on Mars that was once mud, and then it was drying and fractured, and then in all those fractures, we have a kind of a fracture fill material, a white calcium sulfate material that's meant that this area was evaporating over time. Here's another, just such a cool thing. I mean, we see this kind of environment, and for another thing I do with members of the team is we look for places on Earth that might be really similar to these places on Mars or places on other rocky planets in our solar system. So it's kind of cool. So I don't spend all of my time working on Mars. I also look for neat places where there's extreme life, or rather extreme conditions that might support life on Earth. So here's the Curiosity again, and Curiosity takes lots of selfies of herself. One way, does anyone know how you can tell this is actually a selfie, that's not a fake one? What do you think? What do you think? The arm's the shadow, that's exactly right. So this is probably a composite of about 55 pictures, and then they're all stitched together. But in all the selfies, we don't see the arm of Curiosity. We just might see, as this fellow pointed out, we might see the shadow of the arm. See, no arm. So this is one clue that this was taken on Mars. So we just passed through something called the Bagnol Dunes, which are black sand dunes. I'm going to show you a couple pictures now of that. This looks crazy. It looks like a science fantasy scene. And I never get tired of looking at pictures. And to me, that's one thing that's so important is seeing pictures of other worlds. I don't know what instrument I'd like to give up, but I certainly would not want to give up the camera. The cameras are fantastic. Here where Curiosity is going, again, this is a selfie, but we're going up to that sand dune and we're going to interrogate it. And here's another picture again. So once again, as scientists, we're really interested in all the processes that form these features. And so we're looking at all the details, how the sand dunes formed, how tall they are, what the amplitude is between the ripples. And we can spend many hours discussing this and looking at examples on Earth to help guide our interpretations. Here's another selfie. It looks like Curiosity's playing in the sand, but no. Curiosity likes to take a selfie. And what that really means is that the rover engineers are so proud of this rover that they schedule in lots of picture time. Here's a close-up of those grains of sand. And they look just like grains of sand I've played with in my backyard, so it's kind of cool. And finally, I want to show you this we're heading up the mountain ridge, and that red and the green units are units we've mapped from space. We think we're walking up in time, going from an early time in Mars where there's water on the surface, like that lake I showed you, to the time where Mars dried up and had lost all of its water, approaching the time we see today. And so we're trying to understand with this mission how Mars went from a wet, warm place to a cold and hostile place to us that it is today. Here's the view as we're going up to that central mountain of Mount Sharp. And here's another view we just took last week of the latest ridge we're about to study. And finally, this is my last, almost my last slide. Another thing we're doing that will be available for the public to share next year, actually, is we're working with Microsoft, and we have a software and lenses that will be adaptive reality to let us people go to Mars and pretend we're on Mars virtually. And so far, we're just using it among the science team to go over to an outcrop and have arguments and discuss things and look at different samples together. But in the future, next year, this will be available to everyone, so that's pretty exciting. You too can go to Mars. So, as I mentioned, we started out with small rovers, and the Curiosity rover, the size of a car, is the biggest rover we've ever sent to another planet, even to the moon. But eventually, of course, we want to send humans to Mars. And so it's really my pleasure to be visiting here in Wellington with the astronaut Yvonne Cagle, who's going to talk with you next. And I'll just finish by saying I'm so excited to be working on another planet, and also excited to have examples of things to look at on Earth that look so familiar to what we're seeing on Mars. So even though it's a planet so far away, it's not that different, just a different time in that planet's history to what we see in our own backyard. So thank you very much. And I think astronaut Yvonne will come out shortly. And I just want to say, I guess at the end, or maybe during the questions, I have a model, a 1/10 scale model of the rover, and some of you might want to come up and have a look at it. So this is actually a real model of the Curiosity that I brought from JPL. So there might be time. Oh, wait.
I want to look at the
Oh,
model.
okay.
I'm excited, sorry.
Okay.
Carry on.
Oh, so I don't know, is Yvonne going to come out?
I can introduce her. So
Okay.
I've seen the
So
slide.
this is actually a real model. You can see the back, the rear end, where the plutonium. This is a radioactive powered robot, and it's kind of nice and tiny, but the real ones, as you saw, are quite big. And this is, until we get an astronaut there or people there, this is the next best thing. It's not so bad. Thanks very much.
Hey, excellent. Thank you. Round of applause for Jean. Hey. So, yep, you're spot on very quickly. We're going to get Yvonne on, and then you're going to come back and help to answer any questions and stuff like that. So you can have a little breather, play with your robot because it's awesome, and have a good time. So, guys, yeah, I feel so stupid standing here when we got an astronaut standing there. So, guys, our next speaker is a NASA astronaut. She is a medical doctor. She has walked on the stage at the Oscars, but that's her story, not mine. And she can juggle as well. So let's give a huge round of applause for Dr. Cagle.
Hi, this is so cool. You have no idea. No, I was not doing the robot, and I was not doing the moon rock. I was actually juggling in slow-mo, which is the only reason that I really dream about going to space, because here I can juggle 3 balls like this, or around the world, or over the top, and even off the ground, around my back, under my leg. I'm an awesome juggler. But in space, I'll be able to do that not with 3, but with 3,000, and none will ever hit the ground. Because when I dream, guess what? I dream big. And that's what we're talking about today, dreaming big, how you dream big. So let's see, how many people have ever had a dream where they're flying in their dreams? Oh, isn't that the most awesome thing of all? The only problem is when you wake up, you find it was just a dream, right? You were just dreaming. The only difference between what you've experienced and what you can experience if you dream big is that in space, you don't just float, but floating is just like dreaming in your, well, floating is like flying in your dreams, except for one important difference, and that is you're wide awake. Oh, oh, that's for someone who you'll fix it. Oh, okay. I just like that's aliens kind of sort of. They're my bebop in the background, you know, like Gladys Knight and the Pips. They're kind of the Pips doing the bebop. But, all right, but the pictures are worth 1,000 words. Dreaming, dreaming. So now that we know what dreaming is, guess where I started dreaming? I actually started dreaming here at the top of an old oak tree. It was a hot summer night, July 1969, decades, millenniums before you were even born. And I was counting all the stars in the sky. I had almost got them all counted when all of a sudden I heard a voice calling my name and kind of counting down too. And guess what? I thought, of course, it had to be the man on the moon talking to me, right? Well, guess what? It was actually my dad calling me to come down, which wasn't really a cool idea because I was really up there trying to break the record in playing hide-and-go-seek. Anybody play hide-and-go-seek? You know, where you're hiding and everything? Well, I never wanted to be found. So everybody looks what? East and west and maybe south under a rock or in a hole or something like that. How many people know to look up? So that's where I was, counting the stars and talking to the man on the moon when I heard this voice. And suddenly, I come down, and my dad is pointing at this image on our TV, and guess what? It looks like this. A human walking on the moon for the very first time. What do you think I did? The first thing I did was like, I can't believe it, right? So what would you do? First thing I did, what you would probably do is I ran back outside to see if he was there, right? Because remember, we're just talking to the man on the moon. And guess what I saw? Nothing. Moon's kind of far away. Come on, yeah. So, but maybe I missed him, right? So I run back inside, and guess what? He's still on the TV walking on the moon. So guess what I did? I ran back outside again, exactly right. And guess what I saw? You all are so fast. Do you know adults in the audience? It'll take them like 4 or 5 or 20 times before they figure out that you don't see anything because it's too far away. Well, I did that for about 2 hours before I realized that the only thing more amazing than this man walking on the moon was what I must look like to him, granted, a crazy 12-year-old girl running back and forth in and outside, but what that must have looked like, gosh, from the moon, right? So now I wanted a telescope. I wanted to learn all about telescopes, so maybe through a telescope I could see him, right? Till I realized what I really wanted to see was one day my own footprint on the moon. And the best view for that is not through a telescope, but through the lens of your own eye, your own tear. This is what water looks like in weightlessness. It doesn't run and flow like when you turn it on in the sink. It turns into bubbles, and it makes the most awesome lens of the most awesome tapestry of space and stars that you'll ever see. So if you ever do decide to go to space, don't forget to cry, because you'll see not just the view, but you'll see it through the dimensions and lenses of a tear. But in order to do this, I had to prepare. I had to study about how the body designed the eye, designed the tear. So I became a college student, and I studied biochemistry. And after that, I went on an Air Force scholarship, which was really cool because that meant I got to not only learn about medicine when I went to medical school, but I learned all about how to fly in their jets. So I'm in F-111s, F-15s, F-16s, helicopters, heavies, air-to-air refuelers, yanking and banking, anything going to altitude, I wanted to be in it. But guess what? After many years of training as a doctor, those jets no longer seem to go quite fast enough, nor quite high enough. And I knew then the only way to go was really to get faster and higher was going to be space. Wow, this is that view that I wanted. Remember? This is where it landed me. So here I am training on how to float. Can you believe that? This is the coolest thing. And not only do you train how to float, as a doctor, I learned all about what happens to the body when it goes to space. So right now you're all sitting right here, and tell me, yell out your heights. Tell me how tall you are. Okay, how many people think they're right? You're all wrong, because right now in our mind's eye, we're already there. We're dreaming, we're in space, and in space you're actually 2 inches taller. So now I want you to add 2 inches to everything you just said, and now I want to hear the right answer. Excellent, great, great, great. Well, guess what else happens? All the blood, the blood volume in your volume in your body, it floats too. Everything floats. So everybody know where their heart is? Where is it? Wrong again, we're in space, remember? No, 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 no. Your heart actually floats to the center of your body. So now everybody show me where your heart is. Great, so when you go to space and you want to listen to your heart, listen right to the center, right here. And your blood volume, it all floats up, most of it, from your legs, and it keeps floating all the way up until it can't float any higher. And where does it get stuck? In your skull, right. So everywhere where it floats away from starts to lose bone, meaning the bone thins out and gets weaker. So where do you think your bones are going to be the weakest? We found out it's in your legs, your ankles. But then it starts to balance out in your rib cage, right? But what do you think happens to your skull? It can't go anywhere, so all that pressure builds up, lays down new bone, and your hat size gets bigger. Your skull gets a little bit larger. That's a special secret. Don't tell anyone at all. Our bosses don't even know that our heads get bigger when we go to space. But anyway, when you come back from space, then everything goes back to normal. So you know what that means? You're no longer 2 inches taller. So help me out. Do the math. Subtract from space, because we're landing here on Earth. How tall are you now? Subtract your 2 inches. Great, great, great. But the cool thing is your hat size stays pretty large. It doesn't change. Your muscles weaken when you're floating around because you don't need it. But when you come back to gravity, let's say back to Earth or Moon or Mars that has partial gravity, you're not as strong. So it's very important for us to stay conditioned. So right now, if you aspire to stepping off the face of the Earth, make sure that you eat your broccoli, because they're kind of like nutritious trees like the oak tree I was on, only they're not so high, so you won't hurt yourself if you jump off of it. But anyway, and study well, and rest well, exercise well, eat well. All of these are really important because your body changes and adapts when you're in space. And this is what we're talking about: nutrition, body, fitness. We study all these things to keep our hearts strong, to keep us moving and performing in space, just so that we can wake up to a view like this. Wow. So remember, when I saw a man walking on that moon, in that moment, my dreams took wings, and I haven't looked down or looked back since. But today, right now, you all are going to have an incredible view. You're going to have a view of Mars. How many people think that there are aliens? I know for a fact that there are aliens for 2 reasons. One, because aliens are just friends that we haven't met yet. And they're just people without names. So if we look around now, there are aliens all amongst us who are our friends. And also because look right, look at the person to your right. Now look at the person to your left. Now look at the person in front of you. Now look at the person behind you. Okay, those are the people who are going to be landing on Mars. Those are the Martians. Did you know you're sitting next to a Martian right now? Each and every one of you. It's going to be your generation. Yes. Yes, yes. So just remember, when I come tapping on your door, can I have the window seat? Anybody want to go with me and give me the window seat? Is that kind of cool? I'm going to Mars, but if you wake up and you see me on your spaceship, just remember, don't hang with me, because I don't want to come back. I want to stay on Mars. I want to go back to the moon. I want to go beyond. I want to lasso an asteroid. I want to go to Venus. I want to go to Pluto. I just want to see so many things going on. And next year, 2018, there's going to be this amazing telescope called the James Webb Telescope. And I bet they're going to have views and pictures of it here. And you're going to see not just our galaxy, Earth. You're going to be able to see other galaxies. And in 2020, we're going to have a new rover on Mars that you'll be able to pop wheelies when you go. And we're going to go not just back to the moon. We're already having a mission, and we're already talking about going to the dark side of the moon. No longer just a story or a movie. Now you're going to really get to see some views. So when all is said and done, how do we dream? Do we dream small? No, we dream big. We dream big because it's all about dreaming and it's all about humanity. Because remember, if Pluto, how many people know Pluto? Yeah. When I was your age, Pluto was a planet, and then you were born and you said Pluto wasn't a planet, or people said Pluto wasn't a planet. But guess what? Pluto is what now? It's a planet again. Yes, a dwarf planet. You all are really sharp. So if Pluto can come all the way around to be a planet again, then I know we can take our dreams together off planet and make space for all. Because do you know what it takes to make your dreams come true? You have to believe in the impossible. And the only thing that stands between you and the possible are just two letters, the letter I and the letter M. Because after that, it's all possible, right? And if you say it fast enough, you get I am possible. You are possible. Just keep dreaming and dream big. Thank you. Jen, are you going to join me for some questions?
There we go.
Ah.
Cool. Do you want to stay standing or take a seat?
I kind of like, I don't know, standing is kind of cool.
You like standing?
Yeah, I don't get a lot of chance to stand when I'm in space floating around. So, you know, standing feels good. Great. Anybody with questions?
You might be on your own.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I could do that. Yeah. On Mars, I'm going to be on my own. You all are training me. You're training an astronaut. Do you want to run the mic, or maybe we can have someone run the mic in? Okay, yes, this young lady in the blue. Did I like going to space? Oh, great, Jen, yeah. Well, the best part about going to space, believe it or not, is training to go to space. And remember that picture you saw me floating? I was in something called a KC-135 zero gravity, affectionately known as the Vomit Comet. And you know why I like that even better? Is because I can actually go to space with my friends like you. You all one day can fly in that very airplane, because it doesn't fly straight and level. It actually flies like a roller coaster that we call parabolas. And every time it dives down, for 30 seconds, you're all astronauts or aliens or whatever, because you're floating. So right now, real quick, I'm going to teach you the special secret astronaut wave, okay? It really looks like the Vomit Comet. So this is what I want you to do all together with me. Right, when you get to, what do? You come back and you go the other way, right? And then if you're really good, you can do this, and then you can alternate it, and then if you've got 3 balls, you can juggle. You guys are, oh, that's an awesome look. You guys just invented a new astronaut wave. Oh, that's really cool.
It looks kind of like a double helix.
It does,
cool,
yeah. You should have seen it from here. It looked fantastic.
So I asked astronaut Yvonne, what happens if you're an astronaut and you vomit in the Vomit Comet? Are you kicked out of the program?
Yeah.
And you said,
yeah, it's the most fun you'll ever have throwing up. Yeah.
You said no.
Yeah. You still can be an astronaut, so don't worry, yeah.
Hey, cool. Let's have another question. And if I can get the mic to you, that'd be great, because it's not only us here, we're live feeding this as well.
Oh,
there's people all over somewhere, who knows where, listening in and seeing what we're doing today. So I'll tell you what, we had a young lady over there. Let's ask the young man here, nice and clear into the microphone, fella.
How many times have you been to space?
How many times have I been to space? Well, in my mind, I have never come back from space. I've always been in space in my mind. Actually, my mission was actually rescheduled because my spaceship was retired And so now I'm training like the rest of the astronaut corps to go to Mars. So if you really want to go to a far planet, all you have to do is retire your spaceship and let the next generation you all build a new one. So please, the sooner you can get me a spaceship, the faster I can get to Venus, Pluto. And do you know there are not even just 9 planets? Do you know how many planets there are now? Over 2,300, over 2,500 planets, and 250 of them are like Earth that may have water and therefore may have life, and that's what Jen does.
In fact, we're already planning a concept for the next mission to an extrasolar planet, a planet outside our solar system. It's pretty exciting.
Wow.
Next question.
Okay, we're going to take, mind your toes, guys, because I'm going to come and rudely lean over you. Young lady.
Do you have to wear a uniform when you go to work?
Good
Wow,
question.
that's a good question.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of work you're doing. First of all, I say you don't have to wear a uniform when you go to work because it's not work, it's all play, it's all fun. But there are certain things where we do wear a uniform. So when we're interacting with the public like you, or we're just kind of hanging out and floating around, then we wear this blue suit. But when your work is strapping on to 7.5 million pounds of thrust to go 17,544 miles per hour on your way to Mach 25 because you've launched off of a rocket, then you wear a uniform that's big, bright, and orange. It's called our launch and entry suit. And finally, there's a third uniform. It looks like Michelin Man, the Pillsbury Doughboy. It's a big EVA extravehicular activity suit, and that's the one we use when we spacewalk. And it's big because we have it pressurized so that our blood and our oxygen and the water that we need and the temperatures are just right to keep everything nice and cozy like we were a fish in an aquarium without water, just pressure.
Okay, next question. Are you going to pick Alan?
Yeah. Do you have a uniform for work? I'm just interested.
Well, it's not quite as fancy as yours. No uniform at all, which is great.
Go. Any more questions, Randy, while I'm here? I'm looking. Oh, hello, fella. Good work. There we go.
What's your favorite planet?
Wow. Okay, you go first.
Well, I hope we have the same favorite planet,
Really?
Earth.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Earth, right.
I mean,
Pluto.
no,
Yes,
no,
Earth.
Come on. I mean, that's where
Yeah,
we
it
are.
is.
Right?
Yeah, Earth is a planet. Yeah, so Earth is
But-
actually, that's my favorite planet.
No, but
Yeah.
after Earth, then
Earth.
Mars,
Then Mars.
and after Mars, maybe Enceladus. Enceladus. Has
Somebody
anyone
ask
heard
her
of
what that is,
Enceladus?
because I'm probably supposed to. Huh?
Enceladus.
Okay.
It's one of the planets around Saturn.
Wow.
It's a moon of Saturn. Sorry, not a planet. A moon of Saturn, and we've seen jets coming from Enceladus that have water and hydrocarbons that look like they might be antifreeze. So we're actually very excited to go look to Enceladus to see if there might be, whether that might be an ocean under the ice, and
Wow.
whether that ocean might support life. So it's
Actually,
pretty exciting.
I like Neptune because someone told me once it's so cold it rains diamonds. Anyway, but
Maybe.
you never know till you go. Yes, in the blue shirt right there.
Oh.
Wow, what's the most inspiring thing someone ever told me? Wow, probably.
I can guess. Sorry, can I interrupt?
Okay, yeah.
You can't be a fireman.
Exactly. That's right. Believe it or not, it's you can't be a fireman, because that's what made me become an astronaut. I know it sounds really weird that the most inspiring thing was somebody tell me what I can't be, but it just made me want it more. And so I wanted to be a fireman, and they told me girls can't be firemen. So guess what? I became an astronaut. And
Yeah, she
that's
showed
called-
them. I mean, my gosh.
Thank you. And that's called a pivot, because when someone tells you can't do something, in your brain just think pivot, right? Because you find another way to get to do it. So I became an astronaut, not because I don't want to be a fireman or a woman, I still do, but it's just that when I get to Mars, guess what I'm going to be?
A Mars astronaut.
A Mars firewoman. And a doctor too, so, okay.
Fantastic. You're like a Swiss Army knife. It's amazing. Anyway,
When was your first time in space?
My first time in space was probably in that dream when I ran outside to look at man on the moon. And now my next time is where I hope to see the view from Mars. But the difference is, remember when you saw that man walking on the moon? What did he leave on the moon? He left a footprint. This time, when we go to Mars, we don't want to leave a footprint. What do we want to leave? A whole foot. Attached to a leg, preferably, attached to a waist, attached to a heart, attached to a head, and attached to a face with a mouth that's going, oh, whoa, so cool. I got that from Jen.
When I thought no one was looking.
cool. I'm going to take a few more questions. I'm going to do another lap of questions. Is everyone having a good time? Awesome.
Yes, we are.
We are, and that's all that
That's
matters.
all that matters, really.
Go.
Who is your role model?
All right, so who's your role model?
Science and Ben.
I don't have one. I don't have one. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, I have one now. I think I have many role models, but one, of course, was my dad, because my dad was a scientist, and my grandfather was a scientist, but they didn't work on Mars. So I would say my dad, probably.
I have two sets of role models. One role model, remember I said I was at the top of the tree and I heard this voice counting down, I thought it was my dad? Well, it wasn't my dad. Then I thought all these years it was destiny. Well, it wasn't destiny. It was actually Katherine Johnson and women like her counting up as we counted down to the landing on the moon. Because an African-American woman and a team of, they called them colored computers then, and all the women around them with the team, the men that supported them, they're the ones that did the math to even get us off of the face of the earth. So I like to say maybe, just maybe, that voice wasn't my dad or destiny. Maybe it was Dr. Katherine Johnson counting up as we counted down to the moon. And then my second set, who has a cell phone? Okay, I know you're not supposed to do this, so we're just going to do virtual cell phones. But everyone, virtually, take your cell phone out. Okay, virtual, that means not real. Right, I had to learn that, you taught me that. Okay, now, put it on selfie mode. Take a picture. Okay, share it, Twitter it, Instagram, all those things that you talk about. Those are all my role models. You all inspire me, so thank you.
That's cool.
Cool. Excellent. This guy's got a fantastic set of glasses, so he's going to answer the next, ask the next question. Answer one more bit.
How long does it take to become an astronaut?
Wow. Actually, it's like a split second because you're an astronaut in your mind before you ever are with anything that you, so all you have to do is think it. If you can think it, you can dream it. If you can dream it, you can be it. But in order to sort of go through the process of applying, because there's only so many seats right now, then you need to have a master's degree in math, science, engineering, education, or be able to pilot an aircraft. And then, once you get that, then you need to have practiced in the industry or had a job at NASA or some place that does math, science, or engineering, maybe even right here, for 3 years, and then you can put your application in. But there's no one to say that you can't. NASA's going to be so upset if I say this. Anyway, there's no one to stop you from putting your application in now because you already have the first requirement if you're even thinking about it. So go ahead and submit. It may not get picked up, but keep staying with what you know as STEAM and what I know as TEAMS, which is technology, engineering, art, math, and science. And in a few years, you might have an application that they actually say qualifies. But they can at least watch you as you grow. So now, the astronaut office is going to get a whole lot of astronaut applications, and they're going to say,
Hope so.
I'll tell them Jen told you.
I'd just like to say halfway through that list you was rattling off, he said, oh, that doesn't sound too hard. He's there.
He's already there. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, you all look very cosy, so I'm actually going to come and join you. Young lady left.
How long did it take to... Wait,
Not long
What?
at all, really. Just like, yeah, right.
Cool. Oh, hello, you're on there.
When did you land back on Earth?
When did I land back? In my mind, I'm still there. So, we're going to Mars in 2033, and it's 9 months to get there, and it's 9 months to get back. But who wants to just go and you get all that way, and then you have to get back on the bus and just come right? No one wants that. So we're going to add 6 more months, so you'll have 6 months to play. We call them the sandbox on the surface. And you'll have the most amazing views and light shows the whole time and everything. So it'll be a 1.5-year round trip. So if you go to Mars with me, we're going to be gone for at least a 1.5 years. But if you hide at the top of an old oak tree, if we can find an old oak tree, then we'll be the welcoming committee for everybody else who wants to come. And know there's commercial space, so there's citizen astronauts, meaning that even though those are the requirements for NASA, your own space agency or commercial space, they may have it where you can fly in high school your own experiments. Because right now we have high schools and younger that are flying these CubeSats on International Space Station, and now they have the standard CubeSat that's up there, so that young people your age from all over the world can just plug and play, send up data, get data down, grow plants, kind of command and control. You guys are already in space. You're like me. We're already there.
Cool, man.
Well, actually,
yeah,
so-
I like the idea that we can be in space on Earth. I like that. That's
Oh,
awesome.
okay.
Virtual space.
One more question, young lady right in front of me.
What sort of food do you eat?
Oh, what food do you eat? What sort of food do you eat?
Ooh, do you want to take a stab at
ahead.
that? Wow.
Oh, actually, so I have not been to space, but I've been to the Mars Desert Research Station, which is, it's a simulation of, for being on Mars, but it's in the US. And I think actually one of our next speakers will talk about having the same experience. And there we volunteer to eat space food or, space food for 2 weeks. And we ate freeze-dried food. So freeze-dried everything, fruits, vegetables, freeze-dried meats, powdered meats. We didn't have to worry about the no gravity challenge, which maybe Yvonne will talk about, but it was interesting to see what sort of delicious meals. In fact, I went on an expedition that was led by an Australian and had Australian and New Zealand members, and I was the first officer on that expedition. So it was my little experience of Mars closer to home. But your whole digestive system, or you have to go through a little transition, and I won't tell you about those details. But you're a little uncomfortable, a little bloated at first, and then the freeze-dried food became really delicious, and we look forward to eating. So it was good.
Have you all ever heard of a 3D printer?
Oh.
You know how it prints like tools and toys, and it can print like habitats and buildings? It can also print food. And we're learning how to make it print like new organs and skin and everything. So make sure when you're packing for Mars that you pack a 3D printer, and we'll just kind of send the material up with you. But also, if you want to have a pet on Mars, I would strongly recommend bringing a fish, because the waste products of fish actually help to fertilize and nourish the roots of plants, whether they're in soil or whether they're in water. It's called aquaponics for the fish, and then hydroponics for the plants. And then you can grow these amazing tomatoes and wheat and things like that that we've already done, so that you can supplement it.
Why couldn't we bring a cow? We'd have milk and poop. Why not?
And fuel.
And fuel, methane.
Yeah.
Methane from the cow.
Wow.
Would that be a good animal to bring?
That might be a good animal to bring. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So think about these things. What would you pack? What would you bring? And when you come up with your amazing ideas and solutions, then go ahead and ring us up. Put your application in. Even if you don't want to step off the planet, it's a whole team. We can't do what we do without people like Jen. And Jen isn't inspired to do what she does without ideas and innovations like what you all are thinking and dreaming and incubating in your heads right now. So you have the best view of all.
So where Yvonne and I work at one of the NASA centers called NASA Ames Research Center in Silicon Valley, we have an annual competition for school kids from any age, early school up through college, to submit entries for space settlements. And I've been a judge in this competition for 5 years now, and we have received entries from all over the world. You can work as individuals, in teams, you can submit artwork, but I've never seen an entry from New Zealand. And we're hoping that this visit will inspire some of you to go and look for the direct instructions and actually submit an entry. You have several months to do this. And love to see what you guys think about and what you can come up with in terms of making a space station, making a Mars settlement station, and sharing your ideas with NASA, and maybe even winning the competition. So think about it.
And you all are the best experts, your heritage, your country, your everything, about navigation, celestial navigation, meaning using all those stars. And that's why it's so important, because astronauts may one day come here to be taught by you how to navigate using the stars. We already do it using star pairs to find our way home, but when we go in search of asteroids or aliens or Alpha Centauri, any of the A's all the way to Z's, then we're not going to have equipment that may reach that far, signals and communications. So we're going to have only one thing that is tried and true and always there, and that's going to be the stars. So learn your celestial navigation. You may find one day that you're teaching someone like me or Jen how to land using star pairs.
Excellent. Cool. Thank you very much, guys. I think we need to give our two very special guests a huge round of applause. There we go.
Hey, let's wave.
So, this is, I'm just hypnotised by the waves.
I like this one.
I like this one.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway,
Yeah, look at that.
We do have two more speakers to go.
Yeah, that's right.
I've been informed that one group need to leave round about 2 o'clock-ish. That is that time now. So if you guys just think, actually, we're going to stay, this is fun, you can do. But if you need to go and now's a good time for you, that's awesome. But as you go, can we just give everyone here from Te Papa making this event possible, all the people from the Space and Science Festival, a huge round of applause. As you leave, guys, wave to the guys on the live link. There we go. They could be anywhere. They could be from Mars. Who knows?
They could be.
They could be. Excellent. Now, guys, at the back, this is your perfect opportunity to go. I wanted to sit at the front and get up here. So, guys, you'll go leave your lovely seats and come and sit at the front if you're not leaving. We've turned the lights off. It's that kind of evening. We're going to go for a jazz feel. There we go. Okay. Now. I'm going to do a quick thing to get the focus back, and then I introduce you. Yep. Okay, guys, we're going to try and launch a rocket here today. That's right, we're going to launch a rocket here to Mars. Now, guys, you are not close enough. I pay insurance for a reason. Come closer. There you go. Cool. You guys there, you guys in the uniform, come closer. It's a beautiful thing, man. Let's chill out on the blankets. Adults, don't just think I'm talking to the kids. Move closer. There we go. Come to the seats at the front at least, man. We're friendly people. We want to get friendly. So, we're going to launch a rocket. I need 4 volunteers. 4 volunteers. Excellent. Cool. Use as quick as a gun. Come and stand here. There we go. Cool. Young lady there. Stand by him. There we go. You just seem far too excited about anything. That's good. Young lady on the front seat there. Yes, come this way. Excellent. Cool. Excellent. Come together, guys. Yep. Excellent. Okay. Now. Ta-da. I'm going to each give you one of these. You was not born in the 1980s. You have no idea what these are for. And you missed out on a great era of electronica. So, there you go. She's nicking my volunteer. Is that my volunteer? Thank you. It's okay. young lady there in front of me, get up here. There we go. Yes, you look efficient and ready. There you go. You need to hold that, you need to hold that, you need to hold that. You need to hold that. Now, take the lids off, put the lids back on, take the lids off. You just need to know how to take the lid off and put it back on very quickly. There we go. So, you're going to hold one of these. Do not do anything with it. Hold that, do nothing with it. Hold that, do nothing with it. Hold that, do nothing with it. Now, I need to get a mix of hydrogen and oxygen. Take the lids off. Yep, that's cool. Thank you. There we go. Now I'm going to put a little bit of water in here. Do nothing. Just stand there. Keep smiling. Do nothing. A little bit of water in here. Just stand there. Keep smiling. Do nothing. A little bit of water in there. Keep standing. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I love standing in the National Museum, just chucking stuff everywhere. There you go. So, guys, in a few moments, not yet. In a few moments, not yet, I'm going to go, doo, 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 doo. When I make that noise, you're going to drop the white thing into the container. You're going to put the lid on, give it a shake, put it lid down on the black thing in front of you. So when I go, doo, 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 not yet, you put the white thing in, put the container, put the white thing in, put the lid on the container, give it a shake, and stand back. Front row, just jig back a bit, and good luck. There you go. So, yep, quick guys, quick, lid down, that's good, that's awesome, there we go. Ooh. Ooh.
Ah, nothing's happening. Oh no, this is really boring. What's going on?
Sorry? Ah! They didn't get to Mars. Let's hope one of these will get to Mars. Hey, there's one. There we go. So, guys, that was a little bit of fun. Give these guys a huge round of applause. Just leave anything there. Hey, oh, you're a very tidy Kiwi. I like that. There we go. Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. One more round of applause for those 4 volunteers. They were wonderful. So, I've left me notes laying around, but our next speaker, I find interesting because he likes to stand in fields at night and just stand there and look at what's around him. And he picked New Zealand as one of the best places to do that, and he's not wrong. New Zealand is a great place to do this. And the thing that I read this stuff and I think, well, what's the importance here as well as the subject he's going to talk about? He is completely self-taught. He takes photos of stars and space around us from Earth, and like I say, he's self-taught. And his videos, people are talking about all over the world. So, guys, get your hands ready like this. Take a deep breath. And a huge warm welcome to Mark Gee.
Well, you could have a 30-second FaceTime hello or something. Yeah, he's here. You go.
I was always carrying my camera around with me, so I brought it here today as well. So I've got to do one really important thing before I actually start this speech, this talk, and I need your participation. So what we're going to do is a selfie. Yeah, so all you guys are allowed to get rowdy and everything like that, and I'll do a selfie and I'll post it to 500,000 people on the social media. All right, here we go. I've got to get closer. All right. There we go. Yeah. That's crazy good. Thank you very much. All right. We can all settle down now. Cool. So, as the introduction said, I am Mark G, and I take photos of the night sky. Some people call me an astrophotographer. I just call myself a guy with a camera who takes photos of the stars. I've taken photos all my life. I'm from Australia originally, and I came here about 14 years ago to work on this little film called Lord of the Rings. And that was meant to be only 6 months, but I'm still here 14 years later. And while I've been here, I've fallen in love with New Zealand and the night skies. So Wellington is definitely my home now. And when I got here, coming from the Gold Coast in Australia, you know, there's big tall high-rises and lots of lights. You look up, you see 1 or 2 stars, you see the moon. When I got here, I went out to Castle Point, and I looked up at the night sky and I freaked out. I'd never seen anything like it before in my life. And because I was a photographer, I went to Castle Point to photograph surfing because there's not much surfing in Wellington. I got my camera out and I took this photo. And the photo looked something like that. Pretty impressive, eh? Maybe we might dim the lights a little bit here if we can, and so these guys can see it a little better. Can't you see? There's like about 7 stars or something like that. Really impressive. And you guys are thinking, what the hell is this guy doing here talking to us about taking photos of the night sky? Well, the thing is, this got me hooked. I looked totally different to what I saw with the naked eye. I saw all these millions of stars, and then I took a photo and I got basically a blank screen with a couple of spots of stars. So I went away and I started to study and trying to work out how to take photos of the night sky then. I got some help from people in the US. I emailed them, and the internet's great like that. You can make friends all over the world who have a lot more knowledge than you. And then I started to learn things. And I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried. And finally, about a year later, I went out to Cape Palliser. Have you guys been out to Cape Palliser? Yeah? It's a really cool place with this lighthouse with 250 steps that you have to walk up to get to it. But it's really dark out there and fantastic for taking photos in the night sky. So when I went out there, it was an absolutely perfect evening. I set up my camera. The Milky Way was rising. I could see it behind the lighthouse. And I set my composition up, and then I took this photo. So as you can see, it's a little bit different to the photo I took before. But that was a year in between that photo and this photo. And I got this photo out on the social media world, and people started going crazy and just saying, well, how did you do this? How did you do that? And I said, oh, it's easy. You just do this and this and this. So I found myself in a position that I was teaching others, which was great. And to this day, I teach others, and I love doing it. And simply because I want others to get the same enjoyment that I get out of standing in a field at night for hours on end, taking photos of the night sky. So I kept taking more photos. This is another one at Cape Palliser. Same place, except I walked up the 250 stairs and set up a time lapse. And you get a little obsessive about these things. You think, well, what kind of composition, what interesting things can I put in my photo to make it look great against the night sky? And in this case, I'd planned to put the lighthouse looking straight up. And I shot this time lapse, which is like a movie. So you see the stars rotating above and the lighthouse below. And that's what I went there to do, and I was amazed that I did it. Now, I left the time-lapse running for about 3 hours, because that's how long they take for about 5 seconds of footage. And then I went down all those stairs, jumped in the back of my car, fell asleep. I woke up around just before 5 a.m. in the morning, and as I got out of the car, I looked up, and I was just blown away by what I saw. And I saw something similar to this. But the problem was, I didn't have any camera gear, because all my camera gear was up here. So I had to run from here to these stairs, up the stairs, back down with my camera gear. And by this time it was starting to get light, so I had to run really fast. And I was really stuffed by the time I got back. Set up my camera and I shot a 360-degree view of this image. And this is about 220 degrees of it. And I called it Guiding Light to the Stars. I like to try and call my images cool names, so I thought. And I thought, okay, it's a nice image and everything like that. And they have this competition every year, which is called the Astronomy Photographer of the Year, and which is the Greenwich Observatory in London. So it's quite prestigious. And I thought, oh, well, I'll enter this and see what happens. And as it turns out, I got an email saying that I'd made the final. I thought, that's great. And they said, can you come to London? And I said, well, yeah, it's a long way to go. I don't think I'll bother going. It's not worth going. And anyway, I sent my sister there because she was living over there at the time, and I sent her along. And I woke up one morning because they were having the awards at night, which is first thing in the morning, and my phone was vibrating, and I was getting all these messages and things like that, and I'm still waking up. And then all of a sudden the phone rang, and it's this guy from London wanting to speak to me. And it turns out that this image from New Zealand, from Cape Palliser, New Zealand, had won the Astronomy Photographer of the Year overall. So I was a little blown away that, my little hobby that had started, had thrown me into, I guess you could say the spotlight, which was a little overwhelming to start with. But that was not the end of it. I used to come up with these crazy ideas about what I can do and how I can photograph the night sky. And one of them, I was down at Courtney Place one day, and I looked up at Mount Victoria, and I saw this light glowing behind Mount Victoria, and I thought, wonder what that is. And I kept watching. And then all of a sudden you see the moon rising, and the moon rose, and as the moon rose, there was people on Mount Victoria. And I thought, that's really cool. I wonder how I can capture that with the moon rising with people on Mount Victoria. So I went away and I thought, okay, I'll come back a month later, stand in the same place and take the photo. And that was my first lesson that I learnt, that the moon does not rise in the same place every month. And then I kept trying. I kept coming back month after month after month, trying to work out where I had to stand and everything like that. And it's quite funny because when you take photos of the moon, you can use a little camera like, this, and the moon will look about that big. But I wanted something impressive. I wanted something really big. So I had to run around with this camera. And you can imagine what it's like with this camera, and you're running around Courtney Place trying to take photos. And people are out on a Friday night having a good time, and they just ridicule you. You become moon boy and things like that. But as I worked out, I had to be further away from Courtney Place to get the shot I wanted, and I ended up being about 2.2 kilometres away. And every month I kept trying and trying and trying, and sometimes I thought I was in the perfect position and the moon rose too far that way. Another time the moon was rising great, and then all of a sudden the clouds came in. Another time the moon rose in the perfect spot, but there's no people on the lookout. But finally, about a year later, I think it was in January, at the end of January 2013, I ended up capturing a video which just blew me away as well. And I was really excited, and when I was actually capturing, the funny story, I was actually capturing this thing, and I was in this park, and there was this old woman walking the dog, and I've got my big lens, big camera like that, and I'm looking through it and sort of getting really excited and jumping up and down, and she walked past me and she goes, what are you doing? You a stargazer, are you? And I said, yeah, I've got this moon, and it's coming, and it's going big, and I was really excited, and she goes, oh, yeah, okay, good luck, and kept walking. Anyway, I got this video, and it was basically the moon rising and people walking onto the moonrise. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got that here with me today because it's about 3 minutes long, and I haven't got that long. But I did capture a still of it, and this is it here. So if you can imagine this video, moon rising, people walking on stage, it's pretty cool, which I thought. But I didn't think it was cool enough to get the attention that I got out of it. So I stayed up till about 3 o'clock finding the right music for it. And then I posted it online on Vimeo, went to bed, woke up the next morning, my phone was buzzing, going crazy, and I didn't do anything or whatever. And this is a little bit in reverse. This is before the Astronomy Photographer of the Year. So I sort of got up, went to have breakfast, and then my phone rang, and I looked at it, and it was a really weird number, and I'm looking at my phone, and I'm going, who's this? And okay, I answer it. And I go, and he goes, hi, it's Rich from CNN. And I go, Rich from where? He said, CNN, And I said, oh, yeah, Rich, pretending I knew him. But he'd watched this video. He'd seen this video. Within hours, he'd seen this video. And then I started to look online and realize what happened. The video had gone viral. And within a matter of hours, over 1 million people had watched this video. And people kept contacting me for months and months and months. And the really cool thing about it was these people contacted me and said, hey, I watched this video and it made me feel like this. And I watched this video and it meant this to me. So they were sharing their experiences about watching the video, and it just touched the hearts of a lot of people. And I didn't really understand why it did that, but it did. And that was the really cool thing about it, is like my images and my pictures and my video is getting out there, and people are thinking about it, and they're actually trying to understand what it means, and it's touching them in a way. And that's what I love doing about my images. I do it for myself, but I also love getting it out there and showing other people. Now, after all this attention and everything like that, I started to get a few inquiries about people wanting to send me overseas to do things with the camera for free. And I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. And one of the first things I got asked to do was go to Norway. And I was going to go to Norway, and they wanted me to teach a bunch of photographers how to photograph the night sky and the aurora. Now, I was really excited about this because I'd never done anything like this before. I'd never seen an aurora in my life, so off I went, and we went to Norway. And when we landed, it was in December, it was cold, the sun had gone below the horizon, so we had virtually no daylight, the sun never got above the horizon. And we met up for the first night with our tour guide, the aurora tour guide, and I was really excited, we were all really excited. And he goes, I've got some bad news to tell you. He said, we had no aurora for a month. He said, we had a Japanese film crew here doing a documentary on auroras. They just flew out today and they had nothing for a month. And we're quite deflated by this. But he said, but anyway, let's jump in the van and we'll go out and we'll see what we can get. So we jumped in the van and we're driving along and sort of, looking around. And then out the corner of the eye, you see something off in the sky and you look at it and you think, what was that? And there was nothing. So we kept driving a bit further, and then all of a sudden this thing happened again. It's just out the side of your eye there. And then all of a sudden this thing in front of the van just lit up, the whole thing went green, and we've just screamed and said, stop the van, stop the van. And we got out and side of the road, and we started taking photos of that. So it was incredible. This is the first time I've ever seen the aurora, and most of these guys had never seen the aurora as well. And from that night on, every night we were there, we had this. And it just was incredible. It just lit up like daylight sometimes. It was so green and so bright. And, that was one really incredible experience. And that was the first of my incredible experiences. And I've been really lucky to travel the world since. And I've gone to many places to photograph the night sky. And I've learned a lot of different things about the night sky. Here in the southern hemisphere, everything seems normal to us. But when you go to the northern hemisphere, it's all upside down. That's because they're standing on top of the world and we're standing on the bottom of the world. So if you're on top of the world here, big ball, we're standing here upside down. And that's the difference in the night sky. And I kind of knew that, but it sort of took me to go to other places in the world to understand that. One of the really cool places I did go to, well, I still go to, I'm going there again this year, is Africa. And I had a friend contact me on Facebook. Facebook's great for business contacts. And he said, hey, we want to pay you to come to this 5-star luxury resort to photograph the night sky. We'll pay for you, you stay, you have a butler and whatever else. And I said, yeah, thanks for the joke, just ignoring it. But he was serious. He emailed back in a couple of weeks and he said, have you thought about a proposal? I said, are you serious? Anyway, he was serious. So off I went to Kenya in Africa, and I went to Kenya and I went to Tanzania, and we visited the Masai Mara, which is the national park in Africa. And we got special permission to go out into this park at night, which doesn't happen at all, to photograph the night sky. So we had a great time, and this is one of the moments that we're out there. So here I am laying here looking up at the night sky. This is my Maasai warrior, Joseph, and that's my host, Robin. And we're looking up at the night sky, and because we're in Africa here, and it's a national park, and you can hear lions off in the distance, and hyenas, and all sorts of things. And the thing was, to be in this location, we had to have an armed soldier with a gun, just in case something happened. And we arrived there, and he wasn't there. So the three of us said, okay, well, we'll wait here, set off a time lapse, and you guys go off and get him and come back. So the truck left, and then 5 minutes later I'm thinking, we're in the middle of the African bush. There's lions and all sorts of things around us, and it sounds like they're getting a lot closer, and they've gone off to get the guy with the gun, and they still haven't come back. So I said to the Maasai warrior here, Joseph, I said, so what would happen if a lion came up to us here? We're just standing here and you know, we've got no protection whatsoever. And he said, well, the first thing I'll do is throw a piece of clothing away, distract him, and he'll go on and sniff that clothing. And then what we'll do, we'll go and climb this tree over here. And I said, but in that tree there's vultures. And he says, yes, but what would you rather, lions or vultures? And I said, neither. And at that point I thought a bit more, and he stopped me and looked at me, he says, are you scared? And I said, no, I'm not scared, this is fantastic. He says, well, you should be. But as it turned out, nothing happened. They came back. You know, I had some great encounters, but the purpose of that night was we were trying to find some giraffe in the bush there, and we wanted to silhouette the giraffe against the night sky and get a photo of them. And the problem with that is giraffes like to eat and move quite quickly, and you need a long exposure, with 30-second exposure. So it took us like 3 nights till we found giraffes. But finally we came across some giraffes that were sitting in the grass, stood still long enough, and I managed to get this photo. So you can see that these guys were quite happy to sit still. This guy here, he was moving up and down a little bit, but that's okay. But yeah, that is probably my favorite photo from the trip, and it was really amazing to get something like that. But the fun never ended there. I went back again last year, and this time instead of giraffes, we thought, okay, let's do something cool and look for lions, because we all want to get close to the lions and take a photo of them against the night sky. And one night we got this call from the rangers that were out, and they said they found a pride of lions. So we went out to try and see where they were. And as we were driving, this urgent call came across the radio, and I couldn't understand it because they were all speaking Kenyan. And all of a sudden he's put the foot down, and we're just taking off in this truck, and I'm saying, what's going on, what's going on? And they said this lion pride, they're just down the road, and they're hunting a wildebeest, and they're just about to make a kill. And we got there, and just as we got there, they'd just made their kill. So you can see the lions eating the poor old wildebeest here. That's nature, it happens. I'm sure he felt no pain. But the cool thing is, they're so oblivious to people around, they don't care, it's their domain. So we can get really close. So as you can see, I'm probably here where I'm standing now, and those lions are probably just over there. And we just sat in the truck, and there's like, you know, if they wanted to jump in the truck, they could. But we just sat there, and it was just incredible watching nature, and I got some really, really cool shots out of it. I had time to set up my camera. I wasn't going to get out of the truck and stand right next to them and take a photo, obviously. But the photo I got was this one here. So here we are, the lions, stars behind, and that was another highlight of the trip away to Africa. But going away and traveling is really cool, but it's always really good to come back home as well. Because in my opinion, I've been all over the world, but New Zealand still has the best night skies in the world. And when I come back, I like to go to my favourite place, which is Cape Palliser. This particular night, I did a time lapse. I lit a fire, a very small fire, and time lapse shows me by the fire and the Milky Way rising, which was pretty cool. And you can't see in the photo here, it's a little bit of a trick of the eye, but I have my car right here, and I usually take my son away when we go out exploring. And he's probably around your age. At this time, he was probably about 7 at the time. And every year we like to do this trip where we go somewhere different in New Zealand, and we go and take photos of the night sky and explore things and things like that. But the problem is I always want to get a photo of him against the night sky. And he always doesn't want to stand still for 30 seconds because it's boring. But finally, we went down to Kaikoura a few years ago. He was 7 at the time. And we got to the peninsula there, and we were looking at the night sky, and I said, okay, mate, we're going to get a photo. And he said, yeah, whatever. So I set the camera off and just kept it clicking automatically while we stood there. But the thing is, he got engaged with the night sky. He looked up and he thought, this is incredible. He's saying, what's this, what's that? And he was pointing to the galactic center of the Milky Way, which is the brightest part in the night sky. And you can see that with the naked eye in a dark enough environment, and that's what we were doing. He was looking at it, and I was pointing up. And this is the photo that we ended up getting. So there he is, and there I am. And because of the trip away and everything like that, and it was such a great time, I called this photo Universal Bonding. But then someone else contacted me and said, hey, perhaps you should have called it something else. You should have called it Giant Penguin with Small Boy Under the Stars. I had to look at it, and yes, they were right. I was the giant penguin with a small boy under the stars. But penguins aren't the only thing under the stars. Can anyone else tell me another feature of the sky, the night sky? I'll give you a hint. Can anyone see anything in this photo that looks like something? Yes? A cat? Maybe? Yes? A kiwi. I call this photo Kiwi on the Mountain. Can everyone see the kiwi? Wow, isn't that cool? And it's not only in New Zealand that you see this kiwi. I go to America, to Europe, and I say, hey, look at the kiwi. And they're really impressed by it. And once you see the kiwi, you can't unsee the kiwi. You see it. So when you look at photos of the night sky like this, always look out for the kiwi. Can you see the kiwi in this shot? He's sort of upside down on his back in this shot. He's over here having a rest. But the cool thing about this shot here is this is in the Wairarapa. This is White Rock. Has anyone been out to White Rock before? In the Wairarapa? A few people? Yeah. So there's this old trawler wreck out there, and I took my son out again, and we went and camped out there, and we waited till it got dark, and I thought, oh, this would be cool. I'll go and light up the boat with my torch, and we'll get this photo, and I called it Ghost Ship. And the reason why I called it Ghost Ship, because that night we were camping right next to it, and the ship was creaking, and it was spooky. And I said, to my son, well, how about you go and put the torch in there, and I'll take the photo. And he said, hell no. He said, you go do it. So I did it, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. And then I took the photo, and then I had to go back in there and get it, but I didn't. I just let the batteries go flat. But anyway, that's the photo I took. Now, you might have noticed that the night sky, the aurora, has anyone seen the aurora? A couple of weeks ago, it was in the media, and the media said everyone go out to the south coast of Wellington and anywhere else in New Zealand and have a look at this aurora. And on that Sunday night, I went out for a look, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people out there looking for this aurora. Did anyone go out? A few people went out. Yeah, suckers, you went a day too late. Because a day earlier, the aurora looked like that on the south coast. And that's when I was out. I was out the day earlier, and there was no one there. It was only me. So it's really cool that you can see these things from Wellington. Like, it doesn't happen all the time, like to the naked eye at least, but this was like that. And here's another place, which is close by, Wainuiomata. Everyone knows where Wainuiomata is. It's just over the hill here. There's one road in, one road out. Yep. Now, the cool thing about this photo is there's actually 3 galaxies in here. Can everyone see the galaxies? All right. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. So this galaxy is the Milky Way. There's the Kiwi again. And that's the galaxy we're on. We're looking back into the center. This one here is called the Large Magellanic Cloud, and this one's the Small Magellanic Cloud. And they're dwarf galaxies. So it's pretty cool to look up in the sky and be able to see these galaxies here in New Zealand. Now, the last photo I'm going to show you guys, this is probably my favorite photo for now, and it's in the South Island. And this is down at Mount Cook. This is the Tasman Valley. So in this photo, we've got the Milky Way arching over the top. We've got the large Magellan Cloud, the small one. And we've got a bit of an aurora glower here as well. And this photo is made up of 150 photos and all stitched together. And that's it. Pretty amazing, eh? All right, if you guys got 3 minutes, I'll show you a film that I've just done. I haven't shown to anyone yet, so you guys are going to be the first. I'll play it right now, but this is basically New Zealand's Under the Stars. We're trying to play it, believe me.
We don't want to get in trouble with your teachers. If you're staying, come closer, sit on the mats, and come and watch a film. We'll get it running very shortly. Oh, even come up that close. You're awesome. We love you.
No problems. Oh, hang on, we're trying to get this film going. Oh. So I've got a huge audience now. It's a humongous audience. If it doesn't work, we have to watch it on YouTube. $20 to 3. I've gone way over time. I'm in trouble.
Certainly are. Hey, I'll tell you what, guys, what we're going to do is if the video doesn't work with that thing hitting play, I've got a... Where could we find the video that may work at home?
Well, I will have to send a link because I haven't uploaded it. I haven't even uploaded it yet.
But we do need to check out the silhouettes off the moon
Oh,
video.
yes. Yeah.
And that's online, isn't it?
That is online.
That's online everywhere. So we can Google silhouettes of the moon and watch that
Full
film
moon,
there.
full moon silhouettes, and that'll find.
Full moon silhouettes, sorry, there we go. And we'll be able to watch this video at some point. It's not ready quite yet. But guys, we have got another speaker for you. The lovely Harry here. Believe it or not, she has been to a very strange place. And I don't mean Lower Hutt. She has been to a place in America where they're simulating Mars. So she's going to come and speak to us from about that now. So give her a huge round of applause. Yay.
Sorry?
You have the link. Can you just type it in there for me?
I haven't got the link for.
Just
no.
before I start,
Oh, do a search for it.
just before I start, can you guys hear me? Do you know what's my absolute favorite thing about that Milky Way kiwi picture that Mark was showing? Do you guys remember it? The Milky Way kiwi? The kiwi in the Milky Way? So right on top of the kiwi bird, right on top of it, just like a crown, that's where you guys should look for the big black hole that is at the center of our galaxy. So that, for me, is like one of the best things ever about that picture. I absolutely love it. So right on top of the Milky Way kiwi, yeah, it's the center of the galaxy. So if you want to brag to anyone that you know exactly where to pinpoint the center of our galaxy, that's where you should point it. It's like, go and see the Milky Way kiwi with the naked eye. And I actually saw it from Lake Tekapo. I went to Lake Tekapo and I saw the Milky Way kiwi with the naked eye. So you have to have a really, really dark sky. All right. So my talk is called How I Found Out What's Important, because I'm one of the very, very lucky people who went to the Mars Desert Research Station in Utah, where we pretend we go to Mars. And I went there with the Romanian Space Agency, and they invited me to go because I've always liked everything. And because I liked everything, I ended up doing biology and astronomy and engineering. So when I was invited, they were like, you're doing biosecurity and you're doing astronomy. We need someone who can do both. Would you like to come with us on Mars? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then they sent me the ticket, and here I was in 2011 at the Mars Desert Research Station. This is a picture taken right in there. And there are very many people. Like, if you watch here, if you look at this door, these are names of people that have been there for 10 years. The station was functioning when I was there. And these are all names of people who have been there before. And you can see like different flags, and they were from all sciences, all religions. It's absolutely an amazing place. So that was for me a very special place where I really found out who I was. Really, really found out who I was. It was an incredibly spiritual experience. So I went there as a scientist with the facts. And I ended up learning about myself. I'm not really sure what happens here. I always do this when I talk live. Right. So the fact. So I have two parts to my presentation. One is the fact, so I'm going to talk about the fact. And the other one, I'm going to talk about the unseen, about this experience of me going to this Mars Desert Research Station. So here I was, this is me in 2011, standing off the brink of one world, looking into the next. And it's not really that hard, because Mars kind of looks like MDRS. And this picture I took at MDRS in Utah, so that's the reason why we go there. We go there because it looks just like Mars. And that's a picture taken from Mount Sharp. And these are incredible, incredible pictures, both of them. They're so similar. Jen here can tell us about things that we've done, and the rocks that we turned, and the rock collection that she made from that place in there. And whilst I was in there at the Mars Desert Research Station, I realized that you need a few things, like, as I was saying to you, the facts. What are the facts? Air, water, food, shelter, and a lot of duct tape, as I was to find out. And I put together a few pictures so that you can see how we operated and what we did. We lived in a very, very small environment, in a really tiny hub. We call that place the hub, and apparently that's going to be sent in space with the astronauts or without the astronauts. We don't know. We hope, yeah, with Yvonne. So it's going to go there, and then it's going to land. Anyone here saw The Martian? Excellent. What an amazing movie. And so we were training, we were pretending we were on Mars, and we were basically the guinea pigs for these guys to go there. So they were trying all sorts of weird things on us, like, for instance, putting on those suits, which are so annoying. Like, I've never been in a real astronaut suit, but I can tell you about these ones. They're so annoying. You can't see your screen fogs up all the time. You can't smell anything. You can't hear unless you have an eyepiece. You can't touch anything. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. So I feel for you. I really feel for you. And I can imagine it's 10 times worse than what we did in there. And then what if it breaks? Well, ours kind of like had to repair them on all the time. But we died many times on Mars, but that's good. That's why we were there. Then the water thing, right? I don't know how often you shower in space, but I know that we were only allowed to shower every 3 days, because this was all the water we got for 2 weeks for 6 people. So we had to pump it, we had to eat from it, we had to wash the dishes, we didn't wash any clothes because we didn't have enough water. But imagine that. And we had a greenhouse as well that was recycling the water there. So I learned the most efficient way of washing the dishes whilst I was there. And then the other thing is love, right? So as I was saying, do you really need that? I mean, you do need love. You always need love. But duct tape, it's the thing. Because this was the pipe. This is a real thing that happened. The pipe broke for the gray water system, and it was minus 10. It was really, really cold. Wintertime in Utah can get really cold and snowy, and it was freezing, and we had to fix that pipe because it actually froze. And we didn't have any pumping water facility in there. So it was kind of very tragic. Many things happened in that place that we do not talk about, right, Jen? Right, so, plumbing is essential. Like plumbing is a really good job for a Mars future citizen. What else do we need on Mars? I found out three things, very, very important, three things. One is trust. Because you need to trust that person. You need to know that with your eyes closed and without any trace of doubt, your life is going to be in the hands of someone else whilst you're in there. And this is so important. If you're not trusting your people, then you shouldn't go to Mars. The other thing that I thought is, for me, I've been there for 2 weeks, and I haven't seen any green color. And by the end of it, I have never, ever actually thought I was going to end up loving green. Green was just not my color before I went to MDRS, and it just so became my color after it, because you can't see any green. Everything is hues of brown, and that green. And food, right? Are you guys hungry? Because this is what you get on Mars. And it's all dehydrated, and you have to cook them, which for me was kind of like interesting thing to do. And this is actually Romanian fried bread, so it went into the Mars recipe book, so I'm really, really proud of it. But the best thing about the food on Mars, from what I heard, is that they give you chocolate, and they gave us a lot of chocolate. So for me, that was very, very awesome, because I could relax and be happy. And this is a picture of one of our crew just looking outside from inside the hub, and this is they were simulating being in a room where you would pressurize and depressurize just before you go outside into the Martian atmosphere. Because we did everything, we pretended we were on the real Mars, and that was so fantastic. So you couldn't go outside until you put that suit on. That was like taking 20 minutes to just don, and then I don't know how long it takes for the real one. Yeah, it's a lot of time. Yeah, let's go for a walk. You just can't do this. People don't understand. But you go there even on MDRS, and all of a sudden you are faced with the reality of what happens, and then you end up half the day just putting the suit on and doing the checks and making sure you're okay, and making sure you hear everybody, making sure your radio works, making sure you can walk, making sure, I don't know, everything that you can imagine that I have never, ever, ever thought on my 9-to-5 job ever that is possible. So these are the things that we can see. These are the things that we can see. But then the unseen, when we go to Mars, we go into Mars carrying our cultures with us. So we all come from different cultures. Like in where I'm from, we do things in a certain way. I came here to New Zealand, we do things in a very different way here. How do we talk to each other when we're from such different backgrounds? But one thing that I've learned in my genetics course at university was that there is nothing like hybrid vigor. Nothing like it. So who knows? Creating this new world is going to get us to get new discoveries and discover new things inside ourselves as well. And then another question that kind of like bugged me was, why do people move? Why did I just went away from Romania, came here to see the stars, all the way, half the way across the world, or, at the Antipodes, on the other side of the world? Why do we do this? It's really, really interesting to look inside yourself, because this is quite a lot. Why do you want to go to Mars? That's a good question. How do you dream about that? Why did Polynesians navigate it? Why they were moving across the Pacific Ocean? And then if you sort out why you want to move, sometimes you don't even know, you just have to go because you have to go, because there is something bigger than you that just tells you you have to go forward and just find out new horizons. But then, what are you taking with you, right? What are you taking with you, and what do you leave behind on Earth? How does that work? And then, when you go there, how do you start speaking Martian? Because I came here and I learned all these words like pavlova. I had no idea what that was before I came here, right? Or chocolate fish. That's my favorite word in Kiwi. Chocolate fish, yeah. And so when you go to Mars, it's going to be a new language. There's going to be things that you would be saying that nobody else gets it unless you go there. And then the other thing that I found that was really funny was that first time when we got there, this is the Romanian crew, we were like, what is this place? So there's always going to be a bit of resistance. People resist. People, sometimes you're afraid of things that you've never done before. I've done before 9 to 5, right? And here was like 24/7. I was talking to Yvonne, and we're like, we don't want to sleep. Why would you sleep when you're in a place like that? And all my crew members were like, you have to go to sleep because you haven't slept in a week. And we're like, no, we don't want to sleep. No, let's not sleep. Let's just be here and just be in the presence of this Mars-like space that is so amazing. But we ended up talking Martian. We did end up talking Martian because after 2 weeks when we had to go, that was the time when we decided that we wanted to stay. And that's a good question. Why stay? So you go to Mars, but some of us want to stay there, right? Right, Yvonne? Yeah, well, why do you want to stay on Mars? Why would you stay there? And, I thought building a future, that's something I figured it's in our genes because these are the questions that we have to think about. What kind of a future are we building? In 4.5 billion years when our sun will die, is human race still going to be alive? That's a question that I think about quite often because I think it's such an amazing question. And I want my species to survive. I want my species to survive because I think humans are so amazing. So to train for that, to make sure, I don't know, can you make sure about things that are happening after you're gone? These are all good questions. But what I know is that this diaspora place, we call it diaspora. Diaspora is a Greek word, means all the people who are from one culture that are spread across the world. So I think we are going to be the Martian diaspora, right? The people who go to Mars, who are from Earth, and they just spread across Mars in all directions. This is a famous picture, and it's been called, where should we have the house? Where should we put the house? As we're looking on a map. And Mars, it's a place of choice. For me, New Zealand was a place of choice. When I decided that I wanted to stay here, I chose to be here. Nobody made me, nobody pushed me. I just decided one day, and I thought it was the best decision because the environment here was so diverse, and diversity always enhances survival, right? I learned so much from people who are here in New Zealand, who are from all over the world, just like at the Mars Desert Research Station, from all cultures, from all colors, from all backgrounds, from you name it. So when you have more people working together that are very, very different, they also try to get along well. They try to get along better than, say if you are in your own culture back where you have all your rules and regulation and your grandma tells you what to eat and when to eat and all those things. And so migrating, it's what we should do for the future. Maybe, looking ahead, it's in our genes and there is nothing we can do about it. Because the view to the future comes with the question, how is tomorrow going to look like? And I know someone who said something about that. He said, somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known. Thank you so much.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Cool. Okay. Feel like walking out on stage and doing a Freddie Mercury punch into the spotlight. Yeah, Wembley. But anyway, guys, normally at this point, I kind of go, oh, yeah, huge round of applause for all these guys and stuff like that. But I tell you what, let's just have a round of applause anyway. I don't normally get to do this at the end, but like rather than us kind of doing that, I'd just like to say I've really loved today because, like, you know, I've got to perform in a national museum and fire rubber chickens around, but also meet incredible people. And I really like the idea that we've got someone that's been to space, someone that's has made a robot to go and explore these spaces, someone that's sat in simulation and worked out those kind of things that we need to work out. You know, it's a bit like planning for a holiday and you always forget your toothbrush. Well, there's no service stations. You can buy toothbrushes on Mars, I presume. I might be wrong. There. And Mark's photos, I just love it. Like, we all look up at the moon, but seeing those little people still on Earth looking at the moon. And, like, you know, something like the moon, which is one of the closest things to us, we still go, oh, about. So it's really been exciting. I've really enjoyed it. Has anyone here, and I mean anyone here, even if you're just walking past, has anyone here got any questions? Oh, yes, young lady, what's your name? Where you come from?
Hi, I'm Emily. I think I've seen you before. Handsome. Hey, honestly, I just really wanted to know, how did you get to, I might have missed it, but I really want to find out how you got to go to that Mars simulation thing. Like, how did that happen?
So my first mission, I was invited by the Romanian Space Agency because they thought I knew things about sky and things about Earth. But what I did when I was there, I thought to myself that if I just go there and come back, it just didn't feel right for me. So I came back to New Zealand and we did a series of Kiwi missions. So I'm the commander of the very first Kiwi mission. So we're trying to continue that legacy and we try to get as many people the opportunity to go there. But here's the thing, anyone can apply. So if you go on and Google Mars Desert Research Station, there is an application form in there and they take applications from all over the world. You have to have a research and a project that you have to do. I think everyone is brainy. There is no such thing as non-brainy people. Get a brainy friend, yeah.
MDRS. And I think I met someone yesterday who's already told me she's on the crew. So that's pretty exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, cool, thank you. Yeah, so I'm apparently free for 2 weeks. I might come to Wellington if anyone feels like showing me around. That's cool. Yeah. So yeah. Again, off topic, but on topic. You talk about biosecurity and stuff. If you've seen our shows, you realise that all those props in the suitcase, mats to catch wet stuff, rubber chickens and gaffer tape, all looks really weird. And when I opened my case yesterday, I found out that the security team did actually check my case as we come through the airport. They did a check on it. So yeah, but I could totally get, all we carry to fix our stuff is gaffer tape and one-way ties. That's all you need. That's all you need in your toolkit, kids. And I'm going to ask you, because I've heard some interesting things about things that now and then might go wrong and you need to fix them with what you've got up in space. So do you know any stories that you're allowed to tell about weird fixes?
Yellow bubbles, yeah, exactly. Yellow bubbles are probably the biggest thing that could go wrong, believe it or not. So as I talked about, water flows freely in space, and on Earth, but without gravity, it kind of bubbles up, right? So as long as you're floating around and you're having fun and taking showers using, crushing bubbles and floating around, floating bubbles that are clear are really cool and everything like that. But when you start to see these yellow bubbles kind of drifting in, Houston, we have a problem. We have a serious problem. And it's one of the number one, what we call mission contingencies, meaning off nominal things, meaning oh my goodness type problems, because it means that we have lost a section in the toilet, and therefore we no longer are at liberty to use the space water closet. We have to now use the space version that's high tech and everything. It's called a Ziploc bag. Not nearly as glamorous or fun, but when all systems are working, we have section at the bottom of the toilet that actually is able to, and that's how you keep things from bubbling up, is you put negative suction, and now you kind of have a flow sort of situation, or at least you're able to grab bubbles that might otherwise escape. So we all actually in our training have to go through potty training and pass. You can't leave the planet unless you pass potty training, absolutely. Because if you don't know, yeah, well, let's just say there's supposed to not be a camera, but they do grade you, so somehow they have to be observing, so you're incentivized to get it right the first time. It's all about the seal. Just remember that. The next time you go, you can start training now. It's all about maintaining that really good seal.
Thank you. I was thinking about floating around with a Ziploc bag, and yeah, anyway, I need to stop thinking and talking. So, yeah, any more questions, comments? Oh. Ah. Cool. Excellent. Excellent. Fantastic. So, I've just got these. These are really important. I'm just going to take. Don't ask why I've got chopsticks there. It was a joke. It was a joke I was going to do in the show, but I didn't have time. There. You just give people prizes of random stuff you pick up as you travel through. So I've got a sweet from Air New Zealand. And you just go, there's a prize, and people go, ooh. But no, we've got these. We got these. If you're interested in what these are, they will be on Trade Me in about 5 minutes. I'm joking. There you go. So guys, these are gifts from Te Papa. And do you want to come up and explain what they are? Because I've not quite worked out if this guy is amazing or he's got an amazing team, but I think we need to give all these guys a huge round of applause. And you, sir, get up here. Yes, it's his fault we're here. No, you need to come up with Stephen. There we go. There you go. Go. It's his fault. So, I'll let you explain, because I don't have any idea what I'm doing.
And also to Felix, and I think John is still around there, Colin up the back, and Annalise who have teched it as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for all your help. Yeah, these are just a couple of small tokens of our appreciation for coming. I've already given given it to Jen upstairs, her gift. There's one there. They're in no particular order. Having lived overseas and been on a plane myself, they are light, they are flat, so hopefully they will fit into your suitcase, all right, or possibly onto some kind of suborbital or orbital vehicle. So thank you very much, everyone. That wraps up. If you're still watching the stream, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if not, thank you very much, Mark, for bringing it all together. Thank you very much to Yvonne, Jen, Mark there, and Harry as well, and also to Lee, I should say. I just started calling you Mark. To Lee, sorry, I'm getting confused. I'm on the spot. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next time.
And we've just stopped as we've got an audience. There we go. So, that's it. Oh. Hey, can we have, I'll tell you what, let's have everyone that's in here up on stage for a photograph. And then we'll have a photograph. Yeah. And then we'll have a talk. Then we'll have photos.